Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. How's your Wednesday?
That's going all right.
Good. Hoping. Here we go. I feel like this is great. The audience has arrived. I know. Here we go. We've got Henry. So the people who bring in the content are not with us. Hey, Henry.
Hello.
It's a very dramatic backdrop. You've managed to get that scale back. It's like the picture out of your slide deck, Alessio. Like pipelines in real life. So just one sec. I'm just Igor is here. I was just going to post update. Cool. So welcome everyone to the 17th of November k8s migration demo meeting. So I put a few prompts on the agenda. Like, is there any pages, demo or discussion you'd like to go through, Scalback? No?
No, nothing works.
Okay.
Still troubleshooting.
Sure. Do you need any help?
I got Cameron on the case.
Great stuff. Awesome. And then on the Redis stuff, like, and if you have any other demo discussion items that you'd like to go through as well, Igor, please go ahead and add them in. But I wonder if this may be, whether this would be a good time for us to chat a bit about the GitLab chart and whether we, like, is it like, what would it take for us to be able to use the GitLab chart?
What does it mean to use the GitLab chart? You mean doing the auto-deploy version of GitLab chart or the released one? What are we talking about?
The Helm chart.
Yeah, I mean, but we have Helm chart that are kind of fixed to a specific version. And even though we create auto-deploy branches on the Helm chart itself, we don't update this regularly. We just have the last known working chart and we bump the images instead of the chart.
Well, this would be the Helm chart that we ship with the Helm chart that GitLab inherits out of the Redis stuff. So like there wouldn't be anything GitLab specific for the Redis image. It would be more like, can we bundle or can we utilize the Redis chart that we bundle within the GitLab Helm chart?
Do we actually bundle a Redis chart? Because I know we used to have an in-house Redis chart, like Redis HA or something like that is what it was called. But 1 or 2 years ago, we migrated to recommending the Bitnami Redis chart, and we're including that as a dependency for the GitLab Helm chart, as far as I'm aware. Just making sure we're talking about the same thing in the same chart.
Always good, yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we bring in the Redis Bitnami Helm chart when you compile our Helm chart. It just brings them in as a dependency. So you wouldn't install the Redis Helm chart by yourself. it would come in as part of the Helm templating process.
Right. And it's bringing it in as like a key, like, I don't know if it's just top level, like the name is just Redis, I think. And so everything else is gonna, all of the config is gonna be like Redis dot, and then whatever you would set on the Redis chart. I think that's how it works.
That's probably accurate. I don't know. So as far as I know, since we have the need to deploy like 5 or 6 Redis clusters, our Helm chart is not going to have any sort of support to break that up currently. So I think to answer Amy's question, we would need to figure out some way to take a single Redis deployment and create X number of deployments, give them specific names, and give them the necessary configurations that we could all link to within inside of our application. Currently, there's no support for that. So that will be a feature that we need to bring forward to the distribution team to create. My apologies if you can't understand me. I'm inside of a warehouse.
You sound surprisingly good for a warehouse. Okay.
Yeah, so if you look at that distribution issue that I linked, this is one of the topics that came up there as well. And I don't think they gave a definitive answer on how feasible it is to have multiple copies of the Redis Helm chart with Helm as dependencies. And I don't know enough about Helm to know if that is at all feasible. I think if that's easy enough to do, then we should probably aim to do that. But if it's too difficult to do for whatever reason right now, it might also be okay to kind of run Helm directly on the Redis chart without using the GitLab one, and defer the integration side of that, which I think distribution was open to deferring that for now, if needed.
They also make it clear inside of that issue that they don't recommend using the Redis Helm chart that we currently inherit as production worthy. So, and that's probably going to be step one for the distribution team prior to them getting to the point where they could start splitting things up for our use case.
Right. I mean, that's basically the bulk of this epic, of this project, is to gain the confidence and get all of the fixes that we need upstreamed into that Helm chart to make it production ready, or bring it to the point where we feel confident running it in production. And based on that experience, that can also inform their recommendation on whether they consider it production ready or not. So it kind of goes in the other direction, is my take.
But is it really possible with Helm to have multiple instances of a single dependency? Because I mean, if we're just going to install the Bitnami Redis chart, then it's easy, right? Because you just say Helm to give you several deployments, and each deployment is single things. It's how Helm is supposed to work, right? But here we are saying that we have GitLab, which bundles other things, and then you really want to have several options for telling, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 different Redis. I mean, I don't think this is a real use case for a GitLab installation. It is more about, I can give you something that works out of the box with a single default Redis instance, so that you can install with a small installation. It just works. But then if you want to split and configure, I think you have to disable the Bitnami Redis from the chart, provide your own chart, and provide in the necessary configuration in the GitLab chart to link to these other deployments. I mean, I can't really believe we can do this as a one solution fits all, right? So that you just say, I want to scale to 7 different type of Redis cluster, and Helm charts will handle this for me.
I don't know if Helm supports that, but I guess we can make a task and follow up on that async. But I do think we could have an if condition potentially in the Helm chart, in our Helm chart, where we have 3 options: disable Redis, install 1 shared Redis, or provision n Redises. That we need to see how configurable that is, but feasibly we could then tell it which Redises we want, right? So I think we should make an issue. Someone in this room should own figuring out if that's feasible. And then based on the feasibility, we can make the call on whether we want to do this with the GitLab Helm chart or roll our own. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. Yeah. We should also, let's keep an eye on the balance between the getting this stuff production ready, because I know we've made a lot of improvements to the GitLab chart over the last few years by needing to put stuff in order to support the migration rather than sort of solving a problem and then coming back. So there may be some pieces that we can do that way, and there may be some bits that's like truly experimental, and we have to actually, you know, prove this thing stands up and runs before we convince distribution. So okay, yeah, let's see about this issue. On terms of just wrapping up on 1391, Igor, like do you want to do you want to sort of set some expectations for Jason around like how we're going to try and handle this, just so they kind of know what to expect, and if there's anything that we want them to kind of be open to receive from us or investigating in the meantime, we can kind of request that as well.
Yeah, so since Delivery has more experience on working with distribution on Kubernetes stuff, I could definitely use some support there. So if someone could kind of figure out if there's anything we need from them still, or if we're good and we can close that out, that'd be great.
How about we just leave them a comment with where we are going to go next? So like, I think it sounds like the next steps would be to figure out if like what we need to do around what do we need to do to support the single Redis instances, like whether we can do that with a single chart or not. And then based on that, we perhaps have a proposed kind of approach for this migration that we can go back to distribution with.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So how about do you want me to put an update on with the sort of the next steps for that?
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool. Also, just a little bit of kind of context, and perhaps not everyone has awareness that every other Monday, and so the Monday coming up, I'm in the Kubernetes migration working group, primarily with distribution, but also development as well. So that's quite a good place that we sometimes discuss like how to unblock this sort of stuff or get people kind of aligned on approach and things like that. So if we need extra help from either of those two groups, then that's also a good place to ask. Awesome. Okay, I will add a comment.
Thanks.
Cool.
That's everything I had on that topic.
Perfect. Okay, great. And then I guess just a little context for everyone else on the call who wasn't in the kickoff on Monday is we have kicked off the Redis migration. It's great. Igor's put together like a whole load of stuff, and Matt as well, sort of thinking through how we'll go about doing this. We will be pairing up. This is a shared Q4 OKR. So I know Henry, Skabek, and also Graham, you're quite deep in various other things at the moment. As you become more available, as other projects wrap up, we'll all be joining in on this Redis migration, because this is definitely not a single quarter of work. So we will all pair up to complete this. Awesome. So Henry, over to you for some nginx insights. Fun. I'm not sure what word to use. Fun.
Fun. Yeah, you can see it as fun, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, just wanted to report the last state of this. So we still don't have the reason for why we see TCP connection terminations unexpectedly in those 15-second intervals. And I reached out to Google support, and there was a little bit of back and forth in the support issue. And the last suggestions I got from the support engineer Chow, they're kind of interesting. So one thing he noticed was that when we are using the internal load balancer, which we, when we are using it as the service endpoint, then we are seeing these TCP connection terminations. So we suspected it has to do with it. And the support engineer mentioned that this ILB is set up to use an external traffic policy called cluster, which is meaning that traffic will go from the ILB to the node, and the node then will do via IP table rules do the routing to the right pods, which can also be on another node. So it could be that it goes to one node, and from there traffic is going to another node, right? And I think this is something that which we were aware of. Also, Graham was talking about this. So this is maybe an issue, because I could imagine that maybe between the nodes and IP table rules we get terminations of connections. So it doesn't need to be in the load balancer necessarily. So one idea was to maybe switch this to using a local external traffic policy. This is the other setting you can use. For instance, on the internal load balancer that we use for the nginx service endpoint, we use the setting. So nginx, there we always route traffic to one single node and it stays there. This has the downside that we can have uneven traffic distribution, because if there are less pods on one node than on other nodes, then let's say the less amount of nodes will make the pods get the pods on this node get more traffic, because balancing is done by nodes and not by a number of pods on a node. So that would be one idea, to go to this switch over this to local. And the other finding was, and suggestion from Chow was that he was saying that the Kubernetes regular load balancers don't have the capability to perform health checks on pods. That was surprising me a little bit. I'm not sure, I need to validate this, what he's saying and mentioning here. But what he is saying is we should try to use NEG, network endpoint groups, which is a feature which is also supported by Google Cloud, GE. And this has extended capabilities for routing traffic and is aware of pods and can do a lot of things, and also check health endpoints and stuff like that. And it's a small change as an annotation, I think, on the load balancer. And I think also our version of Kubernetes clusters should support this already since a while. And this would mean that instead of going to the nodes and then IP tables rules on the nodes routing traffic to the right pods, we would have another layer on top of that, like a real load balancer, which knows about pods and would just direct traffic to the right pods. And this sounds interesting, but I need to do some research on this, and would be cool to also get some input on, maybe from Skarbek or Graham, if they have more experience with that, because this could be a much nicer way to, distribute traffic. I don't know if this will solve the issue, because we still don't know what exactly is the issue doing the terminations. But I could really imagine that IP tables rules directing traffic between nodes, and then we have scaling events and maybe IP tables, contract tables flowing over or something like that, that this could cause issues together with TCP keep alive packages or something. So this is one way to think about testing and staging, and see how hard it is to get this configured via our charts and values that we can set there. I hope we don't need to change too much on charts to get this in. So I think the next step would be to research this and see if we can do some experiment with that.
That sounds really cool.
It sounds cool, yeah, but I'm still not sure if that helps.
bleeding edge. It'll be fun. Graham will certainly have opinions and thoughts on this. Like, I think this is very close to the stuff that he spends a lot of time thinking about. So yeah, it'd be certainly worth, I'll add the recording onto this straight afterwards, Henry, but yeah, definitely put a summary in and ping Graham on this. Are we set up, do we have staging in a position, like, are we able to actually test this stuff in staging?
In staging, we still have the new setting, like bypassing nginx enabled, because the traffic is so low that we very rarely see errors. Like every few hours, you see 2 or 3 of them, TCP connection terminations in HA proxy logs. So it's hard to reproduce, but you can see it sometimes. And we could try to test something there and try to cause more traffic maybe, or cause the condition if you find out how to cause it. And at least we also could try to play with settings, of course, for load balancers with external traffic policy or using network endpoint groups. So this should be viable.
Would you be able to sort of put together some sort of thoughts on how the plan for how we do that? Because stage is always a bit difficult because we have so little traffic that I guess like we don't get to see great results on like what the scaling will look like and some of those sort of side effects. It'd be good to understand like what steps would we want to go through and what that might look like.
Yeah, I think the first step is to figure out how to set this at all, because if it needs changes in our charts, then it needs more work, right? So we need to see how to get these changes in, and in parallel research and investigate what this exactly means to switch to this other way of load balancing. We would hope to get some input from people like Graham maybe, or Ahmad, or anybody else who has some input here.
So and at least someone from reliability, since we're getting into like the downside of this stuff, like if this doesn't work out as expected, it's almost certainly going to page someone.
Yeah, sure. But the thing is, this is something officially supported, and it's something which is used in production, right? So it should be a viable, and even it's a way to do it, like Google is telling people how to do it, right? They suggest do it like this if you can, and your clusters are new enough. So I think it should be working, but yeah, we need to test and set this and do some research.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's see how we go on this one. So like, I think let's make a call on Friday as to whether we know enough to be able to go ahead or not. For next week, we have quite a long PCL coming in for Thanksgiving. And then, we're pretty much into December. And then before we know, it's the holidays as well. So let's find out what we can and then see how far we can get on this testing.
Yeah, I will open an issue and ping people in it.
Sounds good. Excellent. Is there anything else anybody would like to cover today? Nope. Awesome. Okay. Thank you everyone for the chats. I hope you all have a good rest of your Wednesday. I'll speak to you all soon. Take care.